Hello, my name is Lindsey Zuloaga, and I'm the Director of Data Science at HireVue. I want to talk about what HireVue does, and which may interest you in terms of the software and the algorithms we build, but also to prepare you for some of the realities of the job market and kind of the technology that's coming to bear in that space. So hiring used to be a little more simple. Back in the day, people would apply for a job, they saw listed in a newspaper, usually there wouldn't be very many applicants. They could bring their resume in to a location or call and ask for an interview or talk to someone pretty easily. And most of the time, all applicants would be reviewed for a job. Today, the experience is a little bit different because we live in this global world and everybody can see job postings from all over. There are a lot more candidates that apply to every job. So I went through this personally kind of when I got out of grad school and applied for a job in industry. You spend a lot of time kind of curating your application and your resume and your cover letter for each specific job. You go through a process and an applicant tracking system, and often you put in all of the stuff that you formatted really nicely, and it just gets converted into plain text right in front of your eyes. And then you press submit, and often you just never ever hear anything ever again. So after I went through this several times, I realized it's a very common experience when you apply for jobs through applicant tracking systems, especially at large companies that have a lot of applicants, and they are on the other end of this just completely overwhelmed with applicants. So they have a lot of resumes, and there's no way for a human to really review all of those. So what ends up happening is that most people aren't really given a chance. They kind of get, just kind of into this black hole and forgotten about. So that's not good, obviously, for people who are looking for a job, but it's also not good for companies because they have a lot of highly qualified people that are somewhere in that pile that they have a hard time finding. So what we do at HireVue is we try to help with this problem by having candidates, instead of just submitting a resume, going through an assessment. Assessments are kind of tailored to the job and to specific companies, but generally they can have several elements. They can have recorded interview questions, so the candidate records themselves answering a question. They might have some games, which I'm going to show you at the end of the presentation. These games can assess specific things like kind of your working memory or pattern recognition, things that might be pertinent to certain jobs. Also coding challenges. So for a lot of technical positions, it's very important to know if someone can solve a coding challenge or how well they can code. So that's a good way to evaluate job candidates. And a lot of this can be done automatically. And that's what my team works on. So the machine learning side of things comes into play when we build algorithms to look at the behaviors of people who were good at a specific job, or they have a certain kind of job related competency. And then we can use those algorithms to help evaluate candidates as they come in and help companies find the people who are the best fit for the role that they're hiring for. So what does it mean to be a good fit? There are different kind of frameworks that people work from, and this is ours. So we employ a team of what are called industrial organizational psychologists, or IO psychologists, who kind of define this framework. And these are things to just think about as you are looking for a job in the future. Important elements of any job kind of have these four things, although they will be different weights depending on the job that you're thinking about. Working with people is always important, even in technical roles. Some people, kind of think working with people means that you're customer facing, but that's not always true. Of course, you have to work with the people that you work with. So communication is very important, and getting along with people and understanding people. Working with information, that can take a lot of different masks and kind of how that presents, but a lot of times that means data or communication information. Technical skills, which is obviously very important in specifically technical roles, kind of STEM roles, computer science, engineering, math, data science. And then personality and work style is something that's a little harder to quantify, but that does make a big difference depending on what company you're in. So companies have very different cultures. That was something that I didn't really know until I worked in companies. Just like countries have different cultures, companies have different cultures. So there are certain personalities that kind of fit in better with the culture, and you want a culture that is inclusive and works for a lot of different people. But sometimes the company values specific things that they want, you know, their employees to be on that same page. So what we work on my team, like I said, are machine learning algorithms. So without going into tons of detail, it's kind of an ongoing thing where we have data that's coming in. This is data from assessments, like I explained, like video interviews, games, coding challenges. And we train models to recognize patterns in that data. And then we look and make sure that those models don't have any bias in them, which is an important part of what we do. We want to make sure that the algorithm is not going to score people differently based on things like age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, the list goes on and on. So we look to verify that, and we audit our algorithms very closely. And then when we publish a model, what the output is a ranking of the candidates that applied for a certain job, and kind of how they did on that assessment that our customers, which are companies, can use to kind of go to the next step where they watch video interviews, or they do phone interviews, or kind of whatever their next step in the process may be of hiring. So how do you prepare for something like this? If you're taking an interview, you know, it's likely at some point you will see something like a digital interview or a digital assessment. Sometimes this kind of freaks people out because you're going to record yourself speaking like I am now with no one there giving you feedback. And that can be a little uncomfortable at first. I do think younger generations are a little more comfortable with that because they tend to do things like that more often. But you know, a lot of the advice that we give is just the same advice that you would give to someone going into an in-person interview. You want to do your homework. You want to know about the company. That's always going to be impressive to understand what's going on with the company, kind of their history, and have good questions to ask. Always practice and prepare. So there's a lot of ways you can practice. Basically, you know, there are typical kind of job interview type questions that you can think about and prepare an answer for in advance, and even practice talking through that. Also, it's just good to kind of have your about me statement practiced. You know, kind of your background, your education, what you're interested in, why you're interested in the company, and practice those things. And also just keeping calm and trying to be yourself as much as possible. Just as in any interview, easier said than done, but it's always better when we can kind of stay calm and be ourselves. So what I want to do next is a little bit of a demo. So I want to show you guys a couple of games that we have in our library that are hopefully kind of fun. And the way this will work is you can play these games without downloading an app. You just have to put in your name and email address, and I'll walk you through that. And you'll kind of see, these are examples of 2 games that measure things like visuospatial ability and numerical ability and working memory. As you go through this, you'll kind of see what the experience is like, and then we will send you a little report, kind of some feedback on how you did at the game. So on the left side of the screen, you should see a QR code that you can use your cell phone camera with, or if you can work with someone else as well if you don't have one. When you put this in your camera, you should see a link up here to play these games. So when you get into that, like I said, you're gonna have some things to fill out, just first name, last name, email address. You don't even have to put your real name, but you do need to put an email address so we can send you some feedback. We will only use it for this experience, so you'll get like a thank you email and some results, and then that will be it. The terms and conditions, this is all the stuff that we have to, you know, we have to have people agree to playing the games when they're applying for a job. There's a lot of laws around hiring and things that we have to make sure people know that we're not using their data for certain purposes. So if you scroll down to the bottom of that and say you're not in the European Union and agree to those, you will be, yeah, there that is. You'll be sent to the game. So there's 2 games here, like I showed. If you click to play that first game, Digit Span, make sure to click to show the instructions as well on both of those games. And there will be a short kind of instructions tabs that you can kind of slide through and go ahead and try out the games, and hopefully have a fun experience, and you'll be getting an email from HireVue with kind of the highlights of some of the skills you displayed or some things you might want to work on in terms of what that game was assessing. So thank you so much for your time, and it's unfortunate that we couldn't meet in person, but I hope you enjoyed learning about HireVue and what we do, and enjoy the game experience as well. Thanks.